2022. It is a great honor and pleasure for me. My name is Hari Setia Putra, and on behalf of the committee, we would like to welcome to all of you for the annual session of the 10th Padang International Conference on Economics, Education, Business Administration, and Accounting. Our invited keynote speakers, Associate Professor Dr. Repo Rangga Handika, PhD from Tokyo International University, Japan, Professor Amran bin Muhammad Rasli from INTI International University, Malaysia, Associate Professor Dr. Yuhendri from Universitas Negeri Padang, Indonesia, Assistant Professor Muhammad Rizky Prima Sakti from University College of Bahrain, Kingdom of Bahrain. For the following agenda, it will be the Holy Quran recitation by Muhammad Al-Fikri.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ya, sudah dimulai Pak Dokter? Ya Pak. Iya. Ya, kini baca
Rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ya ayyuhalladzina amanu taqullaha haqqa tuqatih wa la tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun. Wa'tasimu bihablillahi jami'an wa la tafarraqu واذكروا نعمة الله عليكم إذ كنتم أعداء فألف بين قلوبكم فأصبحتم بنعمته إخوانا وكنتم على شفا حفرة من النار فأنقذكم منها كذلك يبين الله لكم آياته لعلكم تهتدون كذلك يبين الله لكم آياته لعلكم لعلكم تهتدون صدق الله العظيم. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullah.
Without further ado, we would like to invite Assistant Professor Dr. Eka Fauzi Hardani as the conference chair to read the official report of the 10th Padang International Conference on Economics, Education, Business Administration and Accounting 2022.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Praise and gratitude we give to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. With His grace, we can carry out this conference. Salawat and greetings we convey to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Honorable Rector of Universitas Negeri Padang, Professor Dr. Andes Ganefri, MPD, PhD. The Honorable Vice Rectors, Deans, Vice Deans, and Director of Postgraduate Program of Universitas Negeri Padang. The distinguished and honorable invited speakers, Associate Professor Dr. Associate Professor Rerpol Rangga Handika, PhD from Tokyo International University, Professor Amran bin Muhammad Rasli, PhD from INTI International University, Associate Professor Dr. Yul Henry, MSc from Universitas Negeri Padang, Assistant Professor Muhammad Rizki, PhD from University College of Bahrain. The distinguished presenters, participants, business, and academic partners of Universitas Negeri Padang. Please allow me to deliver warm welcome to the Padang International Conference of Education, Economy, Business, and Accounting, or PICEEBA. This is the 10th series of PICEEBA. We are very delighted that we have been able to organize this conference consistently since 5 years ago. This year, the conference presents the issue of the global political turbulence, challenges, and opportunity for education, economic, and business. This issue is in line with the global current condition after the COVID-19 pandemic. The world is dealing with economy and political turbulence due to political tension. As a result, this has produced challenges to all aspects of life. Therefore, our university, Universitas Negeri Padang, would like to take opportunity to contribute to discussing such issues and hopefully this find solution that will result and improve living condition for all people. Ladies and gentlemen, this conference invited 4 prominent speakers from reputable universities from Malaysia, Japan, Bahrain, and Indonesia. I highly appreciate those who have accepted our invitation to be a speaker for this conference. I also like to extend my appreciation to the distinguished presenters who are joining this conference through their co-paper submission and other participants. Without your participation, this conference would not be the prestigious event that it is. Furthermore, we are very appreciative to the Faculty of Economy and University for giving full support to make this conference become possible. In this conference, our business partners from Bank Syariah Indonesia, Bank Nagari, Bank Rakyat Indonesia also attending. For this, I would like to thank you very much for your involvement. Last but not least, of course, our super team. I would like to express my deep appreciation to all members of the conference committee whose hard work and preparation made this conference possible. Please believe me, your effort and energy are priceless. As the chairman of this conference, I hope you enjoy this conference and get insight into scientific exchanges. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Among this time, we would like to invite Rektor Universitas Negeri Padang, Professor Ganefri, PhD, to convey an acknowledgement and officially open for the 10th Padang International Conference on Economics, Education, Business Administration, and Accounting 2022.
Oke, thank you. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wabarakatuh.
Your Excellency, the keynote speaker of Padang International Conference on Education, Economic, Business, and Accounting, Dean of Faculty of Economic Universitas Negeri Padang, Chairman, Committee, and all participants of Padang International Conference on Education, Economic, Business, and Accounting. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank everyone here today for being a part of this prestigious event. As a rector, it is a tremendous honor to bring together the outstanding and high-level speakers on this agenda and welcome delegates and participants from worldwide. On behalf of Universitas Negeri Padang, I welcome all of you the 10th Padang International Conference on Education, Economic, Business, and Accounting, or the 10th PICEEBA. Monetary and fiscal policy move in advanced economies, is pushing the world toward global recession and stagnation, inflating worse damage than the financial crisis in 2008 and the COVID-19 shocks in 2020, according to the UNTEC report. Rapid interest rate increase and fiscal tightening and offensive economies combined with the cascading crisis resulting from the COVID pandemic and the war in Ukraine have already turned a global slowdown into a downturn with the desired soft landing looking unlikely. With the warning signs placing across a range of economic and environmental indicators, redeeming the future with innovative, ambitious policies, political will, and private and public support is prerequisite for achieve ambitious development goals. Through this activity, I hope there will be fostering innovation and discussion in facing future economic challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, on this occasion, I would express my sincere gratitude to the Faculty of Economic Universitas Negeri Padang and organizing committee who have organized this event. I am grateful to the many experts who have come to share their knowledge and welcome the representative of government and NGO association who have joined us. In the name of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, the God Almighty, and by expanding His mercy, allow me to open this conference activity by saying Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I am sure you will have fruitful and rewarding changes in the next few days. I wish you every success with this conference, and I look forward to learning about the outcomes. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Rahmatullah wabarakatuh.
For closing the opening ceremony with the blessings, we would like to invite Assistant Professor Gesit Tabrani to lead the dua recitation for Muslim.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, let us bow our head for a moment. We pray to God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that the conference will be blessed. I will lead this prayer based on the teaching of Islam, and those who are not Muslims, you are pleased to pray according to each of your beliefs. So we start with istighfar for 3 times. Astaghfirullah al-azim, alladhi la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum wa atubu ilayh. Astaghfirullah al-azim, alladhi la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum wa atubu ilayh. Astaghfirullah al-azim, alladhi la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum wa atubu ilayh. Na'udzu billahi minasy syaithanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Hamdan syakirin, hamdan na'imin, hamdan yuafi ni'amahu wa yukafi mazidah. Ya Rabbana lakal hamdu kama yanbaghi li jalali wajhika wa 'azimi sultanik. Allahumma salli wa sallim ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali sayyidina Muhammad. Allahumma rabbana zalamna anfusana wa illam taghfir lana wa tarhamna lanakunanna minal khasirin. Allahumma ighfir lana wa li walidayna wa li jami'il muslimina wal muslimat wal mu'minina wal mu'minat al ahya'i minhum wal amwat. Innaka sami'un qaribun mujibud da'wat wa yaqadiyal hajat. Oh Allah, today we gather here to bring about the 10th Padang International Conference on Education, Economics, Business and Accounting with the theme Global Political Turbulence, Challenges and Opportunities for Education, Business and Economy. Please Allah, make this international conference as a useful science assembly, as a medium of sharing useful ideas, knowledge, and experiences of scholars, researchers, and students of various disciplines. May this conference we organize today benefit to our lives, broaden our knowledge, shine our ideas, and lead us to be successful, productive persons, which in turn will boost our dignity of our nation. Allahumma arinal haqqa haqqa warzuqna ittiba'ah wa arinal batila batila warzuqna ijtinabah. Allahumma ya Allah, show us the true is true and inspire us to follow it, and show us falsehood as falsehood and inspire us to abstain from it. Allahumma ya Allah, help me remember you, to be grateful to you, and to worship you in an excellent manner. Allahumma a'inni ala dhikrika wa shukrika wa husni ibadatik. Allahumma ya Allah, you are the one who can fulfill our dua. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adzabannar. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wassalamun alal mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to invite our moderator for plenary session, Assistant Professor Aimatul Yumna, PhD. Time is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The plenary session of the 10th Padang International Conference on Economic, Education, Business and Accounting this morning is about to begin. Thank you very much for preparing yourself to join this plenary discussion. The respectable rectors and vice rector of Universitas Negeri Padang, the respectable dean and vice deans, the honorable all lecturers and academic staff, the honorable head and representative of our business partners, including Bank Syariah Indonesia, Bank Nagari, and Bank Rakyat Indonesia, the honorable all participants in this virtual conference. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Let me introduce myself. I am Aimatul Yumna. I am the moderator of today's panel session. I'm very pleased to see you here and welcome all of you to this virtual conference of the 10th Padang International Conference on Economic, Education, Business and Accounting. The theme of today's panel session is about global political turbulence, challenges and opportunity for education, business, and economics. We all know that the COVID-19 pandemic has become the major disruption in the world of economic order, and this is categorized as a black swan event. The economic downturn triggered by COVID-19 pandemic and technological disruption has significantly impact on many aspects in our life, including economic, business, and also education. For discussing this topic today, we have 4 prominent speakers with us here. The first speaker, Assistant Professor Rangga Handika, PhD, from Tokyo International University. Good morning, Dr. Rangga.
Good morning, Dr. Aimatul Yumna. Yeah.
Nice to see you. And the second speaker is Professor Amran bin Muhammad Rasli from INTI International University, Malaysia. Good morning, Prof.
Good morning.
And the third speaker is Associate Professor Yul Henry from Universitas Negeri Padang. Good morning, Dr. Yul Henry.
Good morning, Aimatul Yumna.
And the last speaker is Assistant Professor Dr. Muhammad Rizky Prima Sakti from University of College Bahrain. Good morning, Dr. Rizky.
Good morning, Bu Aima.
We would like to thank all of you to attend this conference for your all effort and time in attending this conference. Ladies and gentlemen, before the presentation begins, let me inform you the rules of today's session. First, we are going to have all our prominent speakers to present their paper for maximum 20 minutes. And then we're going to have the Q&A session. And now, allow me to welcome our first speaker. Our first speaker today is Associate Professor Dr. Rel Por Rangga Handika, PhD, from Tokyo International University, Japan. Next slide, please. Dr. Rangga got his education from Applied Finance and Actuarial Study Macquarie University in 2015, and then Economic from Jos August Universitat Groningen in 2014, and also Accounting and Finance from Macquarie University in 2009, and Economics Accounting from University of Indonesia 2005. His research in his publication, his academic experience is now he's working in Tokyo International University as associate professor, and before that he also working as assistant professor in Abu Dhabi University, and he was a lecturer as well in Universitas of Indonesia. His research interest in corporate finance is investment, financial accounting, managerial accounting, principle of economics, quantitative finance, risk management, financial economic, and financial econometric. and he has many kind of publication, and I think this is just several publication that's important. You can see the latest publication is Co-Movement and Contagion in Commodity Market with the Khalid in Kajin Economic and Finance 2022 and Contagion in Interconnected Power Market, Journal of the Risk Finance in 2021. Okay, please welcome Dr. Rangga Handika to presenting his presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Aimatul Yuma. Just wondering, can I share my screen? Yeah.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you very much. So let me share my screen. Okay, thank you very much. First, let me give my honorable to Provost Rector, Professor Ganeri, and Professor Idris for the Deans, and Conference Chair, Dr. Eka, and also the speakers, Professor Amran, Professor Yuhenbi, and Professor Rizky for today. So again, when I read this conference, when I get invitation from this conference, the information is about the turbulence, and then you mentioned that's in the political. Again, politics is not my field. My field in the financial market. So in this case, as my field is finance, I would like to explain about the turbulence in the global financial market, especially after the COVID. So this is my field, and then I would like to explain the turbulence. So the content is quite brief in this 20-minute session. So basically, this is just some introduction and then method, data, empirical analysis, and then conclusion here. So let's go here. So basically, the turbulence here is the volatility. In my field, my understanding is the variations, which is deviation, and also fluctuations. Yeah, some word also say volatility, but in the technical here, global turbulence is mostly measured by a quantitative parameter in finance called volatility. So of course, yes, we do know people often say that the COVID caused pandemic, and then I want to do the empirical analysis to see academically and scientifically whether it's correct or not, whether the turbulence increased or not. So I try to analyze to the subsample here. So from the COVID-19 pandemic and then post-pandemic recovery. So we know that the first case was in the Wuhan and then spread around the world. So let me start the sample like in 1st January 2020, we recall 2000s. Despite after talking with my colleagues in the US, now US dollar is strengthened to many currency into the world, including Japanese yen. But if you talk to the colleagues in the US, many of them will say that, well, I'm not getting rich. We also have a problem. And then I ask why? Because since the Russia attack Ukraine, it's become the political disruption as well. So we have both here. So if we learn a little bit about the macroeconomics, AD&AS, so after the AD has been hit by the COVID restrictions, PSBB, lockdown, etc., and then the supply shock also happens, so makes the situation worse. So let's start here. So there are recent articles discussed and examined the market during the pandemic. A lot of paper there, for example, Udin, Chang, Lee, Mora, Ogawa, Luo, Yosaf, Bali. So basically, from the academic perspective, it's very interesting because the turbulence is quite extreme in this pandemic. Yes, the COVID pandemic is a bad news because it's not the health issue, but also the economic, socio-economic, and other aspect of the problems. But as a researchers, we try to investigate. So there are a lot of opportunity to do research here. Okay, so because we talk about the turbulence, yeah, this is a little bit complicated, especially from the non-technical background here. So basically, calculate the mean and standard deviation. So in the sense of turbulence, we measure. So we talk about the turbulence here. And then we measure as a standard deviation. So perhaps many of you, even you are not interested in the quantitative analysis, perhaps you know the standard deviation, basically how the actual data deviate from its mean. However, in the statistic, there is a more complicated method. Even measuring standard deviation is a little bit tricky. According to the time series principles, there are a lot of variations, extensions, starting from the simple to the complicated. So you can see this one here. I try to estimate the component using the GARD's complex model, complex but robust here in my field of finance. Okay, so again, we don't have you don't have, if this is not your field, you don't have to understand the technical detail, but I just want to explain that if I want to measure the turbulence, I need to measure the parameter of the standard deviation before and after. The second is to measure the standard deviation is how. One method is using the historical and the second is using the GARDs. So this is quite simple, but the powerful, and then we will see the GARDs has omega, so omega here, but now using computer, it's much easier. But intuitively, I try to explain, especially if you are not quantitative persons. So I try to explain intuitively. And then the global, of course, global has a lot of, so I try to take like representative here. So we can see in the US, normally S&P 500 markets, US index, IHSG. In Indonesia, it's called JKS, IHSG. So we can say that's IHSG of US. And then FTSE, UK, Nikkei 225, Japan, DAX, and Germany. And there is a global index consisting of the all, which is from the Morgan Stanley, a leading investment firm here. So you can see here, I try to compare, we recall the first case around 1st January 2000. So this is the post-pandemic. And then the 2017, before pandemic, we recall we still enjoy travel 2017, 2019. And then when 2020 happened, it looks like a nightmare. Yes, now it's now we have already resumed. Japan recently opened its border. However, again, due to the rising cases, despite we haven't heard yet the severity. However, there is also another yellow warning. At least we still need to be careful. So actually, we are not as free as before. However, the good news is let's try bersangka baik ya, bersangka baik. The good news, we become more careful, we become more creative here. So the data is publicly available for the index, so you can easily verify. And then let's try what we find here. So you can see here, this is the number. So personally, I'm number because in my field, if I use the number 1 and 2, which one is higher? 2. So 2 is higher, clear. So we can see here the standard deviation here for the all index is very clear. Before pandemic, you can see it's 0 point something, so it's below 1% here. So this is the decimal. And then after pandemic, it's clearly all increased. You can see almost double. So this is true. When the PICEEBA UNP set the name of turbulent, at least in my fields, because the index is represent the many activities of the company as reflected by the investor perceive, investor confidence, and then also investor behavior, we can see clearly the market become more turbulent. So if you feel in the Indonesia like, oh, it's uncertain or tidak jelas or tidak pasti, yes, it's happening around the world. So you can see from my field, it's clear because people are confused, people has no idea what to do, and then now if we restriction, we have we need to do some balancing between between healthy and also economy, because if economy totally stop, it can be also dangerous. So in Japan, it's clearly interesting. If you say the severity rate, the death rate in any public source, you can see Japan is relatively low as compared to US and Europe, which is quite surprising because, you know, Japan is geographically close to China when the case of one. The second is Japan has older population. However, I noticed the interesting thing is in Japan, the number of suicide was more dangerous than the death of the COVID during the, if you recall, the case of Delta. So you can see that we know in some of our beliefs say suicide is haram or prohibited by the religious reason. However, in Japan, the suicide, even people say, okay, in the past, it's not unusual, but the rate is increasing roughly. I didn't check clearly, but I heard it's 3% and then jumping become double or triple. So it's become the serious problem in the Japan. not the health itself. So you can see this is the double clearly here. So before pandemic, even last night I play football and then my train in Japan delay 1 hour more. And of course, it will be unlikely because Japan is famous with the punctuality. And then you know what? Somebody suicide in the, I heard from the police report, somebody entered the train area. So this is really causing trouble for the COVID. So they dead not because of the COVID, but they because of stressful and then psychological and also commit to suicide. This become a problem because you know Japan has the opposite pyramid. So you can see clearly. So you can see it's even for the Nikkei also affected, DAX also Morgan Stanley here. So it's clear. And if I want to see here, so let's go again to here in the daily written FTA, you can see this is before pandemic. You can see, yes, of course, there are some outlier here, some outlier in here. So let me make it bigger. Yeah. So I use our software. Yeah, but of course you can use any particular software here, but you can see, but after pandemics, you can see this is also before pandemic for the global index. But after pandemic, you can see, if you recall, this is time series 2020. So many of uncertainty come in the 2020. So we know when the COVID happens, so if people criticize or complain about Indonesia was confusing, all countries were confusing as well. They have nothing to do, you can see. And then after that, we try to normal. But you can see again, because the Russian attack caused another turbulence here. So this is the data that you can see visually. So it's not a skyrocket science. Yes, I do the robust estimation, but basically intuitively, descriptively is clear. And then I try to prove Carolee here. Okay, so you can see this is just the label that I see. If you recall, this is from 2020 to 2000. Sorry, this is a bit cut here, but 2022. This is the last data I checked. So let me see. This one, yeah. So this is clear. Yes, I can confirm, at least in my field, at least the 4 samples, US, Nikkei, UK, and DAX, Deutschland, Germany, they experience extreme turbulence, much higher than before. So that's also represent global index. You can see this is hit. And then you can see the fluctuation becomes smooth. Okay, we know what to do. The new normal, people say, okay. But and then you can see roughly this one, and then Russian attack Ukraine, another turbulence again. This makes sense. So now even if there are somebody say we are the hater of US dollar, do not say that to the US resident. They also dislike because we cannot think, okay, that's mean the US resident become richer. That's not the fact. Even yen depreciate, one of the worst in the history to the US dollar. But US resident, they also complain about the rising price because the problem is really the war. So the COVID, we battle with the with the virus, and then the Russian attack caused global turbulence. So it looks like a world war, which is anybody lost here. Well, somebody also say might be that's the lobby from the weapon. Of course, I'm not the political expert, so you are expert in that field, might be give better explanation. But what I show here, what I observe here, really there are turbulence. Actually, 2 waves here. Not talking about the health, the pandemic here, but basically the 2 big waves here, or you can say like black swan. There are COVID and then the attack of Ukraine. Of course, there will be need more robust research to do so. So anyway, now let's go to the estimation or more precise using the guards here. So this is, you can see omega and Laura. And then again, some of you might think this is only 0.00 something. Recall, this is a variance, the square of standard deviation. If 0, something, it will be double. So if you take the square, you get the standard. And then it's clear increase from 0.04%. So some of you might think, okay, this is still below 1%. Yes, but if you see, this is, if you divide relatively, it's jump, which is clear. The post-pandemic cost jump. Okay, so I'm not talking so much again. So overall, what can I conclude here? So I try compare and evaluate the turbulence of financial before and the post-pandemic periods. You have already seen simple statistic descriptive, the visual, and also the parameters for a bit complex here. So using for major, which is we know US, UK, Germany, and then also Japan, they tend to be the leading as a benchmark. I try to analyze their statistical, and then I find world financial markets here tend to be more turbulent during the post-pandemic periods. So turbulent again in finance, we learn it's risky and return. That means they might be a good opportunity. However, there are also many complicated. Okay, I think that's the summary here. I am open to any question. This is the reference that I taken. Thank you very much. I return to the moderator, Dr. Aimatu. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Rangga. Very interesting observation. I think you just evaluate for major indexes in the world, including SP 500, FTSE 100, and Nikkei index and MSCIs, and then before and after pandemics. I think that's kind of research inspire our students, especially from finance department, how they can actually see and observe what's going on in the world during before and after pandemics. Thank you so much, Dr. Rangga, for your explanation. And now we can move to our second speaker, Professor Amran bin Muhammad Rusli. Before I move to read Professor Amran bin Muhammad Rusli curriculum vitae, maybe some of you, if you have any question regarding presentation from Dr. Rangga or from any other speakers, please just type in the chat box and we will read your question later on in Q&A session. Now, let me read Professor Amran bin Muhammad Rusli from INTI International University Malaysia curriculum vitae. He got education from Society and Business Globalization from Roskilde University of Denmark for his PhD in 2005, and then Diploma in Qualitative Research Methodology, Copenhagen Business School, Denmark in 2004, and then MBA with very high GPA of 3.6 from Central Missouri State University, Warrenburg, Missouri in 1985, and then a BA in Statistics with GPA of 3 from California State University, Chico, California in 1983. His academic experience, he has a lot of academic experience in here. Maybe I just read some of them. He became a member of SPSS user group and also associate member of Malaysia Institute of Management and associate member of Malaysia Society for Training and Development and senior member of International Economic Development Research Center and also advisory member and board of trustee to the Pacific Business Innovation and Technology Management Society. Very extensive academic experience. And his research interest in commercialization, technology management, performance measurement, service quality, marketing, hospitality management, transmigration and urbanization studies, labor economics, job satisfaction, human resources management, institutional administration, and psychological studies. Wow, it's so much, yeah. And then the publication, I think I read Prof. Amran publication and it's very extensive. We just write 4 of them in here. So you guys, if you have any kind of particular research interest aligned with Professor Amran, please we may collaborate in the future. So please welcome Professor Amran for your talk now.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Can you hear me? Is everything okay? Good. Okay.
Yes, sure.
Yes, we can clearly.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Bu Aima, the moderator, for the kind introduction. Thank you to the University of Negeri Padang for the invitation, especially to the Rector, Prof. Ganefri. Thank you to the deans of faculties and the organizing committee of the conference. Fellow panelists and participants, welcome to my presentation. I would like to follow through with the talk by the previous speaker. Okay, I got this wrong. where he talked about turbulence, okay, of the economy and so on. Professor Ranga, very interesting. And I would like to follow on, okay, follow through with this presentation on talking about turbulence, okay, because the theme of the conference is global political turbulence, challenges and opportunities for education, business and economy, okay. But I'm going to talk about turbulence from the self perspective, meaning the internal perspective, okay. So it's a bit different, okay. So therefore, the title of my presentation this morning, okay, is Behavioral Transformation Model from the Islamic Perspective. It may be a bit different, okay. And number one, I'm not an ustaz or somebody from the Islamic scholar background, okay. But I think as we look into the business and economy today, we tend to forget about the value of ethics, okay, particularly from the perspective of our religion. Okay, so for this morning, okay, I'm going to start by discussing the fundamentals of distribution. Okay, Prof. Ranga talked about all the economic and econometric formulas and so on. Okay, and as we all know, to construct a formula, econometric formula, you have to first of all test the distribution, whether it's normal or not. Okay, so and then there's this thing called skewness. Okay, it can be skewed to the left, okay, or skewed to the right. And the ideal is to have a normal distribution where, okay, the mean, the middle, and the mode would fall straight in the middle, right? Everybody knows this, okay, a very fundamental. Okay, but then I'm going to talk about a different type of bell-shaped curve. Okay, I'm not going to apply the central limit theorem. Okay, and I'm going to talk about the 4 classification of human organizational behavior. Starting on the left is called the date wood. Yeah, and beside the date wood is the learner category, and then there is this thing called the solid citizen, and finally the star player. Okay, these are just generic typology of human behavior, which I call it, and I term it myself, okay? But then again, upon reading the literature and so on, I realized that these terms have been used by some scholars in Harvard and so on, okay? And if we map the distribution, okay, let's talk about the one at the bottom most, okay, which is skewed to the left. Okay, you will see because of the distribution, the date wood number is very small. Okay, and there'll be the most would probably be the solid citizen and the star player. Okay, and this is the ideal organizational characteristic. The ideal, meaning it has more star player than date wood. Okay, so let's go through the combinations, okay, starting from the next slide. Okay, the star player, okay, we've got Ronaldo there. I don't know whether we can still call him a star player. Okay, I think I developed these slides about a couple of months ago. I'm sorry, some of you may feel, hey, this guy's caused so much problem, it's no longer a star player. Anyway, Ronaldo, when he was at his prime, he was a star player. He would win matches for Real Madrid, for Manchester United, and so on, right? So, and beside him, who do we see is Hakeem Olajuwon. If you study in America, in Houston, okay, he's a Nigerian who played in NBA, and he won the championship for Houston Rockets, I think. Okay, anyway, the definition of a star player is, okay, I'm not going to read the detail in yellow below, okay? Just look at the distribution, okay? And at the top, I wrote there, if a star player is given 10 tasks to be completed within 10 weeks, okay, but this star player will get it done on time or early. Sometimes by week number 5, he'll send the report and it will be the best report, perfect, 0 error, star player. Meaning he's somebody who you can depend on. He's somebody who performed for the organization, okay? So the second group after the star player is the solid citizen. Okay, and you can read the detail below and so on. Okay, and this particular type of employee, you give him 10 tasks to be done in 10 weeks, he will get it done on time on the 10th week. He's a steady player. He gets things done, okay, right on the dot. Not as prolific as the star player, but dependable, okay? And then we go to the next group, which is the learner. The learner, you give him 10 tasks, 10 weeks, he gets it done, he or she, not gonna be biased, okay? He or she will get it done maybe a bit later, 11th week or 12th week later on. Okay, a bit late, but he gets it done and it's of good quality. And these are people who are basically either he has just joined the organization, okay, and therefore being new, he has to learn new things, or he has just been promoted. Before he was a supervisor, now he's a manager. So the task has changed. Even though he's been in the organization for the past 5-10 years, but he's still a learner because he's a new manager. He has just been promoted, okay? So still okay, has potential. And last but not least is the deadwood. And this is the type of people, you give him 10 tasks to be done in 10 weeks, he may go even beyond 10 years. Sorry, the language, okay? It's not to be relied on, undependable, cannot be trusted, okay? And and these are the people who bring down the organization and sometimes even sabotage the organization by throwing spanner into the system, as you can see by the cartoon on the right. Okay, so how do we use all this? Okay, we have to realize that people can change. We're talking about behavior. Okay, people can change, they can be positive and they can be negative. Okay, and therefore to change, you have to have good skill set. Okay, skill sets. Okay, you have to be creative, you have to be determined, you have to be enthusiastic, hardworking, dedicated. All the desired qualities must be within. Then you will become the star player. On the other hand, if all these are missing, then you will be the deadwood. And you will not be surprised. Okay, there are star players who after a couple of years, they become deadwood because of lack of intrinsic motivation, okay, external environment and so on. And they are also deadwood, okay, after being motivated, okay, one day he becomes a star player. Why? Because people can change. People can change for the better or for the worse. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so there's this theory called the general systems theory, which talks about the transformation of input to output. Okay, so it's the same also. People change because of the input, the environment, okay, the friends, the society, family, and so on. And all this will transform his behavior to become either a star player or a deadwood. Okay, and once again, it depends on the value system practiced by the organization. It depends on the working environment. It depends also on the motivation process. Okay, people will change. Meaning the deadwood will one day become a learner, will one day become the solid citizen, and become the star player. And this is what we hope for. Okay, and to be the best university, you have to have many star players in the university. And the reverse would happen, okay, without a good reward system. Okay, you become motivated. There's no punishment, even if you do not work. Okay, there's no punishment. You don't produce, you don't fulfill your KPI. Okay, you're not being punished. So slowly you become a deadwood. Okay, so and if the environment is not conducive, also you may become a deadwood. Okay, so so let's relate back with our religion. Okay, and man is born in a state of fitrah, yeah, and therefore he has the potential to go off tangent, and you have to be in charge, okay, of yourself. And if you can remember the story of one of the jihad, okay, battles, where the Sahaba would describe the intensity of the battle and say, we have just gone through this great jihad, okay, and Rasulullah would say, okay, there's an even greater jihad, okay, which is the jihad against the nafs, the self, okay. So so therefore the jihad, okay, to protect yourself, okay, nafs, is what we call al jihad al akbar, okay. So and because of this, people can change. Every day we change. One day we are the best person at the campus, tomorrow we are Mr. Evil. Okay, so we change. One day you are bad, tomorrow you are good. Okay, so the heart changes every now and then. And that's why in the Quran, we talk about the 3 levels of nafsu, okay, or nafs. And it can be changed with proper setting, with a conducive environment, okay, with good friends and so on. We're talking about the 3 levels of nafs, okay, which is al-ammarah, and then al-lawwamah, and al-mutma'innah. Okay, so let's map all this together and see how it looks like. Okay, meaning how do we transform? Yeah, and let me read it first. Okay, with this grand theory, and everybody likes to talk about. It's called Maslow's theory of motivation, the 5 levels of hierarchy. Okay, and the main criticism, okay, from the Islamic perspective is that this theory talks about the self, and you want to achieve success mainly through your own individual drive to achieve self-actualization. The top of the pyramid is self-actualization, where you actualize your true potential. Okay, but it is self, not group. Okay, not based on the ummah or whatever. And this is where, you know, we have to think of something else. Okay, and using the concept, the 3 classification, okay, of nafs, from al-ammarah to al-lawamah to al-mutma'innah. Okay, and I've put in them the sources in the Quran that talks about, you know, al-ammarah, which is the bad nafsu. Okay, the one that incites you to do bad deeds. And the one in the middle, okay, is the one that keeps on changing, as I said before. And there are verses of the Quran and Hadith that talks about people, they become Muslim in the day, they become non-Muslim in the evening because of the change in heart. So it's called al-lawama, okay? It's not consistent, okay? And the ideal, okay, the content itself, the best of the best is al-mutma'innah. Okay, and the Quran also talks about this in Al-Fajr, verse number 21. Ya ayyuhal mutma'innah irji'i, whatever, okay, can't remember the true verse. Okay, so in conclusion, okay, I'm going to play. Okay, to conclude, we are governed by our heart. Okay, and Rasulullah talks about this piece of flesh in the body. If it becomes good, the whole body becomes good. But if it goes bad, the whole body gets spoiled. It is called the heart. Okay, and so the heart is the main source of reasoning, and no organ will work properly if the heart doesn't work. Okay, so, and for this reason, the heart has to be constantly purified. It has to be constantly purified to be clean, so that any thoughts of going bad will be eradicated. And you have to do a lot of zikrullah, okay, and practice a lot of this concept, okay, of emotional quotients, as proposed by Goldman and Spalding. Okay, then you can achieve what we call the ideal perspective of being a star player. And you have to have a good talent management system, whereby the reward system is good, the working environment is excellent, and there are many people who are motivated, okay, thus creating a conducive work environment. So, and we all know this, okay, in the first or second Al-Baqarah, it talks about this verse, fi qulubihim marad fazadahumullahu marada. Okay, in the heart, Allah talks about this. In the heart, there's a lot of disease. Okay, fazadahumullahu marada, and Allah bestow upon this kind of people more disease. And these are the people who are the hypocrites. Okay, this sentence is dedicated to those who have hypocritical behavior. They will never be star players. Okay, so and with that, I conclude my presentation. Thank you very much, and I'm open to any questions. Okay, you can throw them or put them into the chat box, and I will reply accordingly. Okay, Jazakumullah. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much, Prof. Amran. Very insightful presentation. We learned that I think we believe in this world of turbulence, we have to transform ourselves and our perspective. We're not only thinking about us as a person, but also how do we be beneficial for the ummah, something like that, ya Pak ya. So it's in my perspective, this is also one of the idea how we adjust, how we transform in these turbulent worlds. So I hope that's my understanding can add something to your presentation. But maybe as we talked yesterday, Prof. Amran, I think you have something to show us before I start for the next presenters related to the nasid or something like that, or just after our Q&A session?
Oh, I thought I switched it on just now. Did you hear the nasheed while I was talking?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Ah, okay. So I'm not going to sing the nasheed. Okay. Okay.
Maybe after the Q&A session, is that fine?
Okay, fine. We can do it again. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, then. Okay, thank you so much, Prof. Amran. So we're going to wait until the last session of this Q&A because Prof. Amran is going to sing some song for us. Yeah. So just wait for that. Okay, maybe we can move. We can move to the third presenter. Our third presenter is Dr. Yul Henry. So, Associate Professor Dr. Yul Henry is from Universitas Negeri Padang, Indonesia. Next. His education background, in 2011, he earned doctor in economic education from University of Queensland, Australia. And then in 2005, he earned Magister in Development Planning study program from University of Andalas. And in 2001, he earned Bachelor in Economic Education from Universitas Negeri Padang. And his academic experience, he's currently working as a teaching staff and lectures of the Faculty of Economy Padang State University. And he is also a chairman of the Supervisory Board of Indonesian Youth Cooperative, Jakarta 2004 until 2005. And he is also a general treasurer and currently acting as General Secretary of Kopindo, and he's also auditor at Depo Usaha Dompet Duafa Jakarta, and he also part of the research division at the Padang Resource Assessment and Development Centers. His research interest is in education, economic development, economic education, and also business. He has many kind of publication, and this is some publication that we listed in here. So just please have a look. If you have some research or a study that related to this publication, you may collaborate with Dr. Yul Henry later in the future. So please welcome Dr. Yul Henry.
Thank you, Bu Aimatul Yumna. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, give me the chance to deliver my idea about the global political turbulence and education effect. I am interested about the history, about the education and history of politics. Before I deliver my presentation, let me say my gratitude to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala and the Honor Rector in PICEEBA Universitas Negeri Padang, and then Dean of Faculty of Economics, and all of Chairman and Vice Chairman, Deputy and Head of Office and the institution of Universitas Negeri Padang. Then distinguished all invite speaker and all participant of the 10th PICEEBA 20 and 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, in the next Okay, in the current situations, there are 4 symptoms of global tension which have broader effect on economic, social, cultural, defense, and security life, including educations. In the world, namely the pandemic, COVID-19, and the Middle East conflict, and Russia and Ukraine war, and the escalation of regional conflict in border between countries. As Europe become more integrated and stronger as single political, military, economic, and monetary power allied with the USA and NATO, other nation and region will increasingly face danger and terror. This hegemony create a false sense the full tension around the world. Political turbulence threat the necessary for the state to demonstrate a system of resilience in carrying out preventive action by attacking other nations, which increase the intensity. Action by attacking other nation, which increase the intensity of opponents in the Mediterranean Sea, South Asia, and Black Sea. And then attack of country with veto right against a neutral state, sending a message to the world by claiming that the UN veto has such political clout in the global community. Sometimes made in country are made in the double standard by the USA, China, France, and England. World veto right holder can launch an attack on another nation which facing UN Security Council sanctions. Conflict between countries such as political conflict have an impact on educational service today that are happening in Rohingya and Myanmar, Syria, Ukraine, Gaza, and Africa. And global political shocks make military budget allocation bigger, and this will give them and burden future generation with their country debt. There will be a political crisis in the country and have an effect on education. The UN influence over nations that don't have international law is diminished by global political of health. In addition, there are often serious political dispute and tension between nations, particularly in that they have military agreement with neutral nation. As an illustration, the US are invite Afghanistan. Afghanistan is neutral countries, while Russia invite the Ukraine neutral countries before, and the war in Russia and Ukraine has impact in high income countries, G20 movement. Okay, fluctuation politics and cycles of history. The ongoing cycle of life in Earth is weakened by the cycle of a nation's human history, political turbulence, or volatility created by circulation. Rome Splendor was planted by the Mongol and Ottoman Turk, the UK, France, Germany, Spain, Russia, and USA, and China, Japan, and the Arabia. Up until the USSR, Soviet Union, era, the UN veto and NATO emerged as the leading global power in the contemporary era. The fluctuation of global cycle are inevitable. We must know, namely, against in nature, the actual international competitions that continues to compete and political interaction that are increasingly complex over the natural order and sometimes led to armed conflict, clash of civilization and diplomacy, economy of or money and trade. The state must invest more in industry, research, and education. Fair deeper people to take actions and protect themselves from harm from others, giving them faith and God and the economic incentive to pursue knowledge for a better life. And then some lecture find the economic fluctuation, political turbulence, technology, and disruptive innovation are factors that always influence the dynamics and education system. Okay, next, the Russia-Ukraine war. The war between Russia and Ukraine result in energy short from Russia and Ukraine being blocked off or avoided. It resulted in the state having to substitute other supplies. The war affected the increase in oil price due to the Russian invasion in Ukraine, causing the new challenge in the global economy. Its own is known that Russia and Ukraine have a significant market share of the supply of oil, gas, and other commodities. So, in Python, that occurred has increased the price of these commodities. The direct impact of raising commodity price affect economic growth in the countries involved. The cost the economy in South Asia will be infected by the war. In addition, the severity of Western sanctions against Russia and Russia's policy response have dealt below the respective South Asian countries that defend Russia economic relationship. Next. Next. Yeah. Next, one more. Okay. In 1008 until now, it can be seen that education budget has a trade-off relationship between the proportion of the military budget and the educational budget compared to GDP, gross domestic product, and there is tendency at then the end of 2020 now and until now, data on the education budget tend to increase and the education budget tends decrease. So next, yeah. So the impact of the pandemic and the baseline in the education budget can be seen from the downward trend of the World Human Development Index globally. This indicates that the pandemic and political turbulence have had an impact on reducing the quality of human resources and the feasibility of human life. Okay, next. Similar to what the COVID pandemic has given school a class time to do learning. Next, yeah. Okay, the education and the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, next. Okay, similar, the macro data described above, the public perceptions of the allocation of education is also the same as the response from the respondent distributed by UNICEF. The public know that 20% of respondents state that the government believes that the government can allocate more than 5% of the budget for education, and 21% of respondents state less than 5% budget. 45% of the public said there was no change, and 21% of the public knows that the government would not reduce the education budget allocation. Okay, next. Okay, political turbulence. In fact, to sort from social media, mass media, and the gap between one country and other. And then next. Okay. Okay, political turbulent education. Political and education turbulent and the implications. If we adopt the model of Asia empowering, empowering young society, societal innovation, equity, and renewal, if it offer 5 basic principles of education policy to overcome turbulence. They are: 1, inclusion or to achieve social justice and recognition for all. 2, respect for realizing social justice. 3, belief in the search for truth. 4, the courage, they engage in consistent use dialogue to create constructive cross-cultural criticism and alternative worldview to achieve multicultural worldview on how to deliver together for peace in our time. And the end, no knowledge generation is carefully synthetic traditional and new knowledge. They enable to reimage to new future young people are the driving force of step and sustainable socio-economic transformation for equity and the renewal. And then we have 4 strategies to overcome educational turbulence. The first, empowering young community, innovator for equality and renewal. 2, senior level leaders supported by wise mentor and international network can bridge different groups, describe the internationality of discrimination and address the cause of fear and marginalization in a system. 3, senior level leader from marginalized group need mentoring and networking to help them navigate turbulence. And 4, infrastructure for cultural change, empowering education professional to empower young community innovator for equality, renewal, and peace. Ladies and gentlemen, all my submission indicates that we can avoid political turbulence with does not always have a negative impact. Our ability to strategic will determine whether we rise above challenge or opportunities. This is all by me, and I back to moderator. Thank you, Bu Aima.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yohendri. So basically, I learned about the impact on political turbulence on the education services, including reducing the government budget on education. And the impact of reducing the government budget on education is very significant. Consequently, reduce the quality of human resources as well. So thank you for sharing your insight, Dr. Yohendri.
Okay, you're welcome.
We may move to our last presenter today.
Okay.
Assistant Professor Dr. Muhammad Rizky Primasakti from University College of Bahrain, Kingdom of Bahrain. Next. His education background, he got PhD in finance or Islamic finance from University of Technology Malaysia in 2009 and also Master of Science in Finance from University Islam Antarbangsa Malaysia in 2014 and Bachelor in Economic from Universitas Negeri Padang in 2011 and also Bachelor in Business Administration from University Utara Malaysia in 2011. He has extensive academic experience, including Assistant Professor of Islamic Finance at UCB 2019 until now, and Head or Dean of Business Administration Department 2022 until now, and General Secretary of Scientific Research Council at UCB, and also Senior Researcher in ESEFID, and Research Consultant at International Institute of Advanced Islamic Studies Malaysia, and Consultant at Islamic Research and Training Institute IRTI 2016 to 2017. And his research interest, I think we have similar research interests, yes, doctor, in Islamic economic banking, Islamic social finance, corporate finance, capital structure, and also corporate governance. And also this is list of his publications. So some of you may interest, please have a look, and maybe Dr. Rizky can collaborate with us in the future. So now please welcome Dr. Rizky from University of College Bahrain.
Thank you, Bu Aima, for introductory. And ladies and gentlemen, respected doctors, professor, allow me to present my slide. Is my share screen visible, Bu Aima?
Yes, Pak, very clear.
Right. First of all, it's such an honor for me being invited in this prestigious event of Padang International Conference on Education, Economic, Business and Accounting, PICEEBA, in 2022. It's a coming home for me. Even though I'm far away from Indonesia, I'm in Bahrain, but I'm originally from Padang, and I graduated from Universitas Negeri Padang. So thank you for inviting me. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Now, as a last keynote in this prestigious conference, I'd like to disappear my humble research entitled Digital Entrepreneurship and Business Amid the Global Geopolitical Turbulence, Insight from the Gulf Cooperation Countries. So this is the agenda, the flow of my presentation. First of all, I will explain about the recent or unfolding global geopolitical turbulence. Number two, the consideration for GCC business in the light of the current war, Russia-Ukraine war. Number three, digital entrepreneurship and sustainable business in the GCC countries amidst the global geopolitical turbulence. And we turn to the challenge and opportunities that might be arise in the light of the current turbulence. And last but not least, conclusion or the way forward. Ladies and gentlemen, I think my presentation has been covered most of the time by the previous keynote by Dr. Ranga and Dr. Henry about the global geopolitical turbulence as we recently are facing the current war between Russia and Ukraine. And as you may know, that the recent war has been erupted since the end of the February 22. It's almost 1 year. Okay, so this is just so the timeline and the recent event or the important event that arise during the war from February until now in the month of the November. So as you know, that the war has been started in 24th of the February, right? And coming to that, a series of the sanctions and ban imposed by the Western countries against the Russia. And this issue also triggers unfolding discussions in many summit, including the recent summit in Indonesia in G20. One of the issue of the security, the war has been discussed of the country leader. And interestingly, in September 22, as you know, that the President Putin, he announced the referendum in the 4 of Ukraine regions. And now I believe that since we are entering the winter season, it become challenged at the end of the year, also by the beginning of the 23. Now, the recent war or the unfolding war has disrupted business, economic and finance in many ways around the world. Prof. Ranga has mentioned the impact in the case of Japan. Now, in this occasion, I would like to highlight the impact of the war with respect to Middle East countries, typically in Gulf cooperation countries. Now, if we see that impact of the war with respect to the global food, the food and the energy, actually this impact has been started prior to the war, right? If you see the historical data, during that pandemic, the global food price and the energy price has started to jump, has started to increase. So data from the FAO, it shows that the trend of the global food price and the hydrocarbon or the oil and gas has been increased dramatically. Okay, if you see the chart here from 2019 until now, there is a jump in the food price. As we know that the two countries that are in conflict like now, Russia and Ukraine now, are the two largest producer of wheat and grain in the world, especially to the Middle Eastern and North Africa countries. It has impact dramatically, right? Now, I'm actually facing it in Bahrain because the face of what we call kubus. Kubus means roti. Yeah, is an increase. Yeah, although it is not significantly increased, but the food price has increased, and also that oil price. The oil price has been increased gradually, and it's jumped to to reach the level this data until the August 22. Okay, so the Russian-Ukraine war has significantly affected the global supply shock and the food energy. As a result, there is a significantly increase in the global food and energy price in the last 2 decades. Now, moving to the supply chain, typically on the ocean freight costs, again, prior to the war, during the COVID-19 pandemic, due to the lockdown and the stop of the operations from the many poor in the world, so the freight cost has been increased, okay? And it has been exacerbated due to the current conflict of the Russia against Ukraine, okay? So the ocean freight cost has been severely affected due to the both of the COVID-19 pandemic and the current conflict. This war has exacerbated for both producer and the consumer price. Yeah, as Prof. Henry mentioned in the previous presentations, that the Russia blockade, the Black Sea movement for the cargo to send the wheat and grain to the other countries, to Europe, to Middle East and North Africa. And as a result, it impacts also the increase in the food prices. Moving to the financial system, in the early March or April, I think in March 22, the Western countries, led by the United States, has imposed a sanction against the Russian bank. So the Russian bank has been, banned to SWIFT financial transaction processing system. The SWIFT transaction system actually allow the businessman, the entrepreneur, to do export and import activities in the smooth way. Now, since it's excluded from this technology, from this system, it faces a challenge for Russia. The aim of this SWIFT ban, to weakening the Russian economy, to the access of the SWIFT processing system. But prior to that, Russia has initiated some of the collaboration or the agreement with respect to the financial system, like the SPFS. In China, they have also CIPS and others between the EU and Iran instead. But what I can say here, this impact the Russian economy to somehow, if we see the recent data, now in the Q3 22, Russia start to experience negative growth. So Russia now experience a recession. If we see at the global level, the macroeconomic data, that in terms of that international transactions, the US dollar still dominated for the global financial transaction. Even though the numbers of the dollar transaction all around the world slightly reduced, but it's still a majority. If you're not mistaken, the data around 60 to 70% of the global transactions still using the US dollar. So the hegemony of US dollars still take place, right? And this is coupled with the increase in oil price. So it's make the phenomena of the strong dollar, right? So against the local currency, Indonesian rupiah or Japanese yens, the dollar getting stronger. And it may have an impact toward, the Russian economy. So the US wants to attack the Russian economy by the way of, weakening them through the asset of the SWIFT financial transaction. On the other note, the US and their coalitions, they would like to, to decrease the oil production. Okay, because that as you know, Russia is one of the largest oil producer in the world, and the Russia is still selling the oil to other countries. Okay, so they still can survive to some extent amidst the many sanctions imposed by the Western countries. And we would like to see later what is the impact of these sanctions given by the West and with respect to GCC countries. As you know, that GCC countries as the largest oil producer, Saudi Arabia, the second largest producer of oil in the world. Now, coming to the food crisis, the food crisis has been started in the beginning of the war, typically in the way grain. The food price globally has risen by 35%, 5%. The overall food price increased by 5%. And oil, as you see here, the data in March reached $125. Now, looking at the specific region, typically I would say that the Middle East and North Africa country are the area that severely impact due to the increase in oil price, the food price, because they pretty much depend on the wheat and grain production from Russia and Ukraine. So the current war of the Russia and Ukraine has caused an extreme food insecurities in many countries in Middle East and North Africa. So, for example, in Yemen also facing a war between, Yemen and Saudi and the coalition, where 17 million people in Yemen are food insecure. Also in North Africa, Egypt, there is a dramatically increase of food price in Egypt, okay, because Egypt is the world's largest importer of the wheat. As I mentioned, GCC country also experiencing it. But not in the significant way. I can see that the general increase of the price with respect to the food price in Bahrain, for example, in Qatar, in UAE, and Saudi Arabia. Now, how we could see this current conflict with respect to the GCC business and environment? Ladies and gentlemen, respected doctors, professor, the GCC country actually stands for Gulf Cooperation countries. It has 6 member countries. Saudi Arabia as the largest in the region and also the most influential. Number 2, Bahrain, the small tiny island, but it is the center of the Islamic finance in the region. United Arab Emirates, I believe everybody know Dubai. Qatar, and now they're hosting the World Cup. Kuwait, also the strongest currency in the world, and 6, Oman, the 3rd strongest currency in the world. So the GCC countries are the oil producer countries, okay? What are the view with respect on Russia-Ukraine conflict? the Gulf, led by the Saudi, I could say that they try to maintain a balanced positions toward the Russia invasion, right? As maybe in the couple of days ago, you see the news that President Biden's tried to give a pressure to MBS, the Crown Prince of Mohammed bin Salman, not to getting closer to Russia and try to cut that oil production. Yeah? So this conflict actually give an impact toward GCC business and economy. Okay, not in other country like in Japan or in Indonesia. Because of that increase in oil price, it has an asymmetric impact toward the currencies, toward the economy of GCC. Okay, so it has a great strategic value toward an oil and gas market in the region. So increasing oil price actually is kind of that influx to the GCC economy. And so GCC country, they see that increase in their GDP of about the 0.7% due to that increasing trend for that energy price, right? So it's kind of the a blessing amidst the turbulence in the GCC countries. On the other note, Russian, they try to get closer or approach GCC countries in the way that they want to sign that economic integration agreements with one of the GCC member country, UAE, and even UAE classified as a friendly countries as Russia perceive it. Okay, and Russia relationship with the GCC country at the moment is now at all-time high. Typically after the OPEC plus commitment made by Saudi and UAE. The OPEC plus is the largest oil exporter country, okay, led by the Saudi Arabia as the most influential in the region, plus the Russia. Okay. On the other hand, interestingly here, Qatar, the small countries is just around 3 million population, and now they hosting the World Cup. They not supporting the other members. I could say that they have a different view. In this case, the Qatar gave their commitment to supply the European Union with the LNG, the liquefied gas, in order to reduce the European Union dependency on the Russian gas. But I think two months ago, the Ministry of Energy in Qatar, he says that in order to build that infrastructure to connect Qatar and the Western Europe, it needs time for 7 years. So you could say that it's impossible for the short term. Maybe it take more time in the long run so that they can connect the LNG gas from Qatar to Western Europe, Western part of the Europe. So this kind of the challenge that a GCC state face, right? Now, what Russia requests to the GCC state with respect to the current event and the conflict? First, Russia wants the GCC state do not follow or ignore all the call from the West to join any sanction imposed to Moscow, and keep oil production, not cutting the productions like what US requests, because that if they keep that oil production, so there will be high demand. Okay, the supply is there, so that the what it says the price will be getting high, and so they keep oil production within the OPEC plus framework. To some extent, it give an impact to Russian economy amidst the sanction imposed by the West. Now, moving to the next subtopic about the digital business. Yeah, what is the relationship between the current turbulence and the digitalization of the business, entrepreneur, and economy? Typically, before the war, the GCC state has started the digitalization in many ways, in entrepreneurship, even to the small medium enterprises. But the recent war, or the unfolding war, has impacted digitalization and economies, because as you know, the Russian and Ukraine as one of the hub or the leaders in terms of the IT digitalization in the eastern part of the Europe, and also has a close tie with the Middle East economy, GCC economy. Okay, so prior to the war, actually, GCC country has started this digitalization. Digitalization, it's can be captured in their vision. They have the share vision, they call, like in Saudi, they have Vision 2030. In Bahrain, they have the Vision 2030, Vision 2020 in Oman, in UAE and other. They have the share visions. The main goal of this vision is to reduce the GCC dependency on oil revenue. Okay, because the leaders, they realize that one day that the oil and gas will be finished, and they need to find out the other sources of revenue. So try to reduce the dependency on oil and gas revenue from the hydrocarbon revenue, and shift toward digitalizations, renewable energy project, okay, knowledge-based economy, and also the entrepreneurship. Okay, so this is one of the idea of the Vision 2030 in many GCC states. So the COVID-19 and geopolitical turbulence has disrupted the way of doing business in the sense of the digital entrepreneurship and also the global supply chain, as we discussed in the beginning. Okay, so to do a good digitalization or the digital business, digital entrepreneurship, so the country need to invest. They need to do innovation, right? This is just the data from the GII, the Global Innovation Index, that show the relationship between GDP per capita of the country and the GII score. GII score, it's an index that shows which country is the most innovative country in the world. Okay. Now, as you see here in the dot, the GCC state, most of them are the highest income per capita country. Even Qatar is the highest per capita in the world, right? And they invest a lot in research and development and innovation. We can say that there is a positive and linear relationship between the innovation, digitalization, R&D toward that economy. And that is why in the Vision 2030, the leaders in the GCC state, they invest massively towards the knowledge-based entrepreneurship and digitalization. So this is just the statistic about the index trend in GCC state. The highest GII score among GCC is led by UAE, United Arab Emirates, followed by Saudi Arabia, ranking 51, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, and Oman. For the past 5 years, we can say that there's what it calls the gradually increase in terms of the ranking among the GCC state. Now, what are some insights, some of the lessons that we could learn from the GCC state? What they do, what they complete in order to fulfill the ambition in the Vision 2030. Number one, UAE, for example, as the world country's best environment with respect to entrepreneurship, okay, with respect to the digitalization business. Okay, so UAE, Qatar, and Bahrain, they are leading in terms of that infrastructure. They're leading in terms of the ease of doing business. For example, here in Bahrain, if the entrepreneurs or the businessmen, they want to submit a proposal to get a license for doing a business, it can be done online within 1 day. Okay, 1 day. And the next day they can get the license if all the documents are properly submitted. So this is one of the things, the ease of doing business that supported economies in the GCC. Yeah. Now, the area that arise with respect to digitalization, digital entrepreneurship in the era of the post-COVID-19 pandemic, in the era of the global geopolitical turbulence, we could say in the 4 main aspects. E-commerce, for instance, like the payment method, the contactless delivery, technology with respect to educational technology, fintech, financial technology, entertainment, social media, gaming, and healthcare, diagnostic, virtual care, and so on. Now, on the other note, what the GCC countries are currently doing to support the economy and reduce the reliance to oil revenue is realizing what I call is the sustainable business. So not only getting a profit, okay, or a revenue, but also concerned on the environmental aspect, the community aspect, and also, of course, that economic impact, economic aspect. For examples, like in the Dubai, they have that Expo 2020. They want to reduce the reliance on the hydrocarbon revenue and introduce what it calls the renewables the electric cars, electric transportations. In Saudi, they have the ambitious project in Neom, in the Tabuk province in Saudi, where they make a line city, and this line city is fully supported by the the green energy. So the business also turned to the sustainable as a realization of the sustainable development goal. Okay, now I don't want to explain much here, just to highlight what are some of the aspects of the digitalization. For example, in Bahrain, we have here the technological adoption in financial service. We call benefit the e-transfer fund. Like in Indonesia, we have GoPay, or what else? OVO Pay, But through benefit, everybody can transfer without giving the bank account. Just giving your phone number, and everybody can doing a transfer through the system, and it is free of charge. So there is no fee-based income for the bank in this case. And not only in Bahrain, this benefit transaction allow us to transfer across GCC countries, to Riyadh, to Dubai, to Gulf state. Okay, and Bahrain is the center of the financial services in the region, and the country's economy. Yes, oil is still the dominant, but 16.7% contribute by the non-oil sector. Another thing that I would like to highlight in Bahrain, they are also leading in terms of the fintech, financial technology. And Bahrain is one of the countries that legalized the use of the fintech, they legalized the use of the crypto. Even they have what they call the Bahrain Fintech Bay as a place to blooms the fintech adoption among the youth, the businessmen in Bahrain. And also Binance. The Binance is the first Gulf crypto license, and it can be used for the transaction, for the for the payment here in Bahrain. Just recently, I saw it in the car dealer in Bahrain. They accept the payment through Binance, even though we can debate on it because the the crypto has the dramatic fluctuation in terms of the price. But we could say that Bahrain, they are aimed toward the digitalization technology and the financial technology. Now, coming to UAE, some of them we mentioned in the first place, that UAE is the best place with respect to the ease of doing business. On the other note, the UAE government also support the women entrepreneur. Unlike before, maybe women, they hinder from any economic and business activity, but nowadays in GCC, including in UAE, they support the women entrepreneur to start the business. Okay. And yes, this is what I mentioned before. In the Expo 2020, the UAE, they focusing on to sustainability, in the sense that they raise the smart cities, okay, human-centric smart city without the hydrocarbon, improving the sustainable terrestrial and marine management, because they have the long coast in UAE, and protecting ocean ecosystem and the economy. So the budget that influx to this sustainable project has increased dramatically in UAE. Now, last but not least, in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is the largest and the most influential in the region, with total population is 33 million people. And like Indonesia, they're also experiencing bonus demographic, where most of the people are the young and productive people. Okay, so Saudi, along with the UK, they established what they call the Saudi UK Technological Hub to provide a good ecosystem for fintech innovation, startup business, and knowledge economy. Okay, so these are some area where the Saudi Tech Hub take place. Now, challenge. What are the challenges amid the global economic or global political turbulence? So innovation, as you see, the amount has increased in the COVID-19 pandemic, but this year it might be challenged due to the global geopolitical turbulence. Okay, and also the pressure given by the state and also their ally. Number two, the global economic recession would have to lead to cut back on the R&D. Yes, the number of the research and development budget might be reduced. Intellectual property and the venture capital might be dropped due to the global political challenge. Technological progression, adoption, and innovation socio-economic impact show sign of the two wages innovation. Number one, the digital age innovation wave and deep science innovation wave. And nowadays, the artificial intelligence in government sector is encouraged across the GCC country. Okay, and digital edge innovations mean that to build on artificial intelligence and automation that would amplify the productivity in business, including in small, medium enterprises, while the deep science mean revolutionize innovations in the society, typically in the fourth aspect: healthcare, food, environment, and mobility. Last but not least, the conclusion. The global geopolitical turbulence has caused a supply shock, impact the food crisis, supply chains, and the change of the way of how we're doing business through digitalization. And the innovation is a key word that needed to foster the performance of businesses, including the small, medium enterprises amid the global political turbulence. Okay, so innovation investment thrived at the high in the COVID-19, but their continued resilience is uncertain in the current year 22 due to the global geopolitical turbulence. Last but not least, the promise of digital technology for sustainable entrepreneurship is a way to tackle the severe social and environmental challenge in the recent time. With that, I stop here. That's all for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rizky, for highlight some important issue related to the GCC countries. So we learned a lot of things in here. The first thing that Dr. Rizky saw us that the impact of global economic turbulence and also political turbulence is not only from the financial market, as Dr. Rangga said, and behavioral, as Professor Marwan said, and also from education budget, as Dr. Yohendri said, but also impacting in reducing innovation budget. When we know that when government reduce the innovation budget, of course, the impact is also very significant for the human development and also for business and economic as a whole. So therefore, Dr. Rizky suggests us to support digitalization and entrepreneurship and boosting innovation as a key to reduce the impact of global political turbulence. Thank you, Dr. Rizky. Now we can move to the next session, which is the Q&A session. We already have a lot of questions listed in our chat box. Please, committee, can you show the Q&A session? So the first Q&A session, we have 4 questions. The first one is from Nifsa Hanifa, Universitas Negeri Padang. This is for Dr. Yohendri. The question is, the existence of COVID-19 pandemic the existence of COVID-19 pandemic us to keep up with development. The use of technology and the internet are solution of education problem during the pandemic. So the question is, why development of technology and the internet, whose the main purpose is to make easier for students to learn from anywhere, actually makes many students in Indonesia become lazy to read. So yeah, that's the issue. So we use a lot of technology, and also technology can increase our innovation, but also reducing our productivity sometimes. And the second question is from Aprima, Universitas Riau, is for Professor Amran bin Muhammad Rasli. The question is how religion influence environmental value and behavior, especially for companies that have employees from various countries and religion. Okay. And the third question is from Dr. Kasmita, Universitas Negeri Padang. This is for Dr. Rangga Handika. I think I read this question in the chat box. Dr. Kasmita asking about economic turbulence is very interesting to discuss at this time. Its impact is being felt by a whole world, but I'm very worried about small entrepreneurs. What small business have to do to survive the impact of post-pandemic economic shock, especially related to how they can out of financial difficulties. I think the question from Dr. Sasmita is also relevant to Dr. Rizky, yeah, as Dr. Rizky also mentioned about entrepreneurship. And the last question is from Alfi Sukriman, Universitas Negeri Padang. This is for Dr. Muhammad Rizky Primasakti. So the question is, innovation is one way to accelerate the progress of a business in the era of economic turbulence, and all forms of innovation described are technological based. What should the government role in driving the economic if the quality of human resources are still weak? Okay, this is another challenge of using technology. If we use technology, we need upskilling, upskilling human resources. So maybe Dr. Rizky can answer this question. Okay, now can move to the first question. Maybe start from Dr. Yul Henry and then to Professor Amran and then to Dr. Rangga and then to Dr. Rizky. Time is yours.
Okay, thank you. Aimatul moderator. Next, our student Nifsa Hanifah. There are negative and positive impact of the internet. One of the impact is that students' creativity is low, and there is a tendency to imitate or copy paste the opinion their friend and other people. That is our rule as an educator, a lecturer. Over time, we continue to try get them and direct them to reduce the coping learning behavior of the reading and get them use to thinking, reflecting, and writing down the understanding. They have to read it in short duration so that they can gradually read independently. Maybe this is my answer, Bu Aimatul.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Yul Henry. So the key is innovative learning method. We have as a lecturer always be innovative and delivering our lectures and our materials using e-learnings and all the internet facilities. Therefore, it's not only for the student to allow read and then do the assignment and copy paste the work from other student, but maybe we have to always think innovative and then provide some materials that allow the student to be more critical in understanding the subjects. Thank you, Dr. Yul Henry. For the next question, maybe Professor Amran can answer the question listed in the slide.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you, Aprima from UNRI. Interesting question. How religion influences environmental issues and behavior. Okay. I believe, number one, okay, if you read the Quran, there's a lot of verses that talks about this thing called fasad. Okay, fasad is destruction. And when people talk about destruction, they tend to relate with environmental destruction. But fasad is beyond just environmental destruction. It's also related to moral destruction. Okay, and it's all related to activities which are immoral and declared un-Islamic. Okay, so going back to the perhaps, okay, the question is looking from the environmental perspective. Yes, okay, Islam is also concerned about the environment, and we as Muslims, we are supposed to be the guardian of the environment as well. Okay, Allah assigns us as Khalifatul Ard, meaning you're also in charge, okay, of the world, meaning the environment, the forests, the rivers, and so on. So, and I think beyond Islam, most religions also talk about, you know, the role of us human with regards to protecting the environment and behavior as well. Of course, okay, if being a Muslim, you know, in Islam, the quest is always to be, how should I say, better today than yesterday. Again, better tomorrow than today. Meaning, we're talking about continuous improvement of our behavior. Okay, because this is what our Prophet asks us to do. You know, to be better. Okay, so that we can serve better to the community, to the household. Okay, and then therefore, this concept we have to understand from the perspective. I'm going to talk for half an hour, I'm sorry. From the perspective of hablum minallah wa hablum minan nas. So our relationship among humans, okay, and Allah, okay, it goes together, okay. So okay, I'll move to the second part, and then how do companies that, especially for companies that have employees from various countries and region. Yeah, this is a very good question. But then if you look into the big companies, okay, most probably the European companies, the Japanese companies, and now the Chinese companies. And if you look at the big and reputable companies, okay, they subscribe to standards like ISO 14001, which is about environmental management, okay, environmental sustainability. If you look into the Japanese, okay, our Professor Ranga is working in Japan, okay, he will vouch, okay, that the Japanese companies, they are concerned about all this. In fact, some of their behavior, okay, to fellow employees who are non-Japanese, okay, seems to be reflective of our religion, even though they are not Muslims. Okay, so this is where we have to understand, okay, religion, okay, if we revert to the true context of the religion, it will not only help to protect the environment, it will not only help to improve our behavior, but also, okay, the interplay of the employees, the community, be it in the company or wherever, inshallah. Okay, so that is my answer. Wallahu a'lam bisawab.
Thank you so much, Prof. Amran. Yeah, I do agree with you. So protecting the environment is universal value, I guess. Like I mentioned, this is one of the example of protecting the environment value stated in SDGs. Like this is all the agreement between all the world in many nations in the world to implement SDGs. So I believe that this is a universal value, not only Islam but also other religion to protect environment and also always improving our behavior. Thank you, Prof, for highlighting some good issues. And then maybe we can come to the third question from Dr. Kasmita to Dr. Rangga Handika. So yes, Dr. Kasmita questioning about the impact of turbulence on the small medium enterprises.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Kasmita, for the interesting question. So entrepreneur is not my field, but I can observe from the behavior of the businesses that the impact to the financial market, for example. So the answer is yes. Post-pandemic caused disruption especially for the small business, and this is not happening in Indonesia, but also in Japan. So from the financial perspective, actually the pandemic will have two risky position. Two risk means good side and then bad side. Okay, so basically there are opportunities. So if you think, for example, Japan looks stable, actually not. You can see the first several months, Japan was also confusing. But what makes their resilient is they quickly adapt and see the danger, which is the risk, and then they convert to the opportunity. For example, during the pandemic restrictions, there are also layoff in the what is the name? I forget, tourism and then travel business. But they change. Some of them become, for example, the mass and health producer. So from the small and for the bigger. In Indonesia, actually, we did. For example, small restaurant, normally crowded by the people. But because of the pandemics, they have restriction, they change become delivery. I know some of my friends in East Java, he did it. However, the big problem in Indonesia, actually, the first is the coordinations. Yeah. In Japan, they can quickly, because all the people working in this are recorded, and they have a valid record of the economic. So then when they transform, they quickly, for example, a vaccine issue. Vaccine is not only the vaccines, but yes, vaccine is the area of the medical, but who will deliver? Who will manage people with QU? Who will manage, okay, you will stay here, who will enter the path? For example, at my university, where are 1,000 student vaccine, they hire part-time workers, they hire students. So people, for example, from airline stewardess, they can do part-time. So that's reduced the burden of the medical staff like doctors and nurses. So in Indonesia, sadly, we are very slow on that one. So you can see at the beginning, they were very chaotic. So actually, this is something easy. But in Indonesia, we have a lot of works for the coordination and the database. So the answer is that there can be a change. However, to be agile, that's not something easy. It involves a lot of we can say, actually, we have the foundations, gotong royong, correct? But I don't know whether in theory, in practice, there are quite huge gap. But actually, we still do this. We have like, first, believe in the God. Second is humanity by Prof. Arman mentioning. 3, Persatuan Indonesia, gotong royong. So rather than spreading the energy to debate in the social media or tawuran fighting, use the energy to transfer and then they get paid. So at least, so really this is simple. And I hope an objective input that the Ministry of this is a bit complicated because involving Ministry of Youth, Kemudaan, also Ministry of tenaga kerja, ya, the employee, the employee. So the answer is easy, but coordination is still a big homework in Indonesia here. That's my answer. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Angga. So yeah, basically in this dynamic situation, the key from Dr. Angga is we need to be agile, to easy transform ourselves, adapt ourselves for changing situation. And Dr. Angga also highlight very important issue related to the teamwork or gotong royong. We do have that value, so why not we just use that value to always collaborate together, work together, impacting and also doing something together. So to make adjustment together, so we can do the good things together. Okay, maybe we can move to the fourth question from Alfi Sukriman. Okay, Dr. Rizky, you can read from the slide and then answer the question. Time is yours.
Great, thank you, Bu Aima. But before I answer Mr. Alfi, I think I want to echo what Dr. Rangga said with a question from Dr. Kasmita about the entrepreneurs and the small businesses. Yes, the collaborations and partnership is the key, especially in the post-pandemic era and the current global turbulence. And I want to give you some example here in Middle East, in Bahrain typically. And interestingly, what I observed, the Thai product, they get, best acceptance, I can say, among the Southeast Asian product in the Bahrain market typically. Why? Because of the collaboration and the partnership with the locals, with the Arab entrepreneurs, and also the strong support by the Thai governments. Even surprisingly, they have the big plaza. They call it the Thai Plaza in Bahrain. Very big, like a mall, So yeah, I can find the Indonesian product like Indomie here in Bahrain. But they have the coconut, all the agriculture product here. They can sell in GCC market. And by the way, they like also the Arab people. They like also the product from Thai, like the agriculture product, noodle, tom yum, and all of those stuff. So collaboration and partnership, yes, is one of the key. And another thing why they can survive and sell their product here to GCC market, the aim to shift to digitalization. Yes, this is what we mentioned in our presentation, and diversification of product and market. Now, thanks to the pandemic, it opened the door for the SMEs, not only to capture the local market, but we can entering the new market, yeah, especially in GCC countries. GCC is the largest importer of meat in the world, and they eat meat a lot. They need shawarma or kebab and all of these things. They don't have these resources. They import it from India, from Brazil, from Australia, and it's opened the door for our entrepreneurs here in Indonesia. Whatever that the Thai can do, we can do also the same thing or even better than what the Thailand entrepreneur do. So the diversification of product and markets, it opened the door for entrepreneurs to survive in the impact of the post-COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, so I just want to echo what Dr. Rangga said. Now turning to Mr. Alfie, question about how or what should be the government role in driving economy in the quality of human resource if they are still weak. Okay, human capital is a long-term investment and it's not gain an outcome or result in in one night or overnight. So nurturing the talent, yes, this is the continuous processes, and the government need to enhancing investment in education. Okay, for example, through establishing the education hub. In Qatar, they have the education city. In Qatar, the education city, all that top Western university established in education city. Just a few weeks back, I went to Qatar, and for Qataris, the local people, they make it free at all costs for the higher education. Also attracting the professor, doctors all around the world to give the best educations to the young people. Also the same thing in Bahrain. For Bahrainis, they give, if not free, but very little cost with the higher education. So this is about the formal education. Now moving to the informal education, how the government can do to accelerate the human capital or nurturing the talent is by the way of improving the informal and the on-the-job learning. The informal training also the crucial important, because what we learn here in the class, maybe not just we practice it like in medical educations. Most of the medical faculty is built and close to the hospital, right? So whatever you learn, and immediately you can practice it because it's close to the hospital. But in business economy, we are not or close to the epicentrum of the business hub or tech hub or a fintech hub or whatever hub you can say. In Bahrain, I could say is that this is one of the things that something that I can say that they build the campus which is near to the the hub, fintech hub or the SMEs hub, so that the student they can go to the fintech hub, for example, as SMEs hub, and learn from the practitioner. By the way, I'm not the practitioner, I'm purely academicians, but what I can learn here, this is the impact and engagement activities can bridge the gap between the theories and the practices. So this is very, I think, the impact activities we call and engagement activities is very important for our student. I believe also in Universitas Negeri Padang and the university, it can nurture the talent to bridge the gap between the theories and the practice. All right, and encouraging a modern activities like the field visit, industrial visit is kind of the way that for our student can upskilling or uplifting their knowledge and understanding about the subject matters. So hope it answered the question, Bu Aima.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Rizky. So yeah, basically this is not a short-term investment. This is a long-term investment. We need a lot of effort to upskill our human resources, especially, in Indonesia, the financial literacy is still low, technological literacy is very low. Of course, we need to work together again, such as developing an education hub. This is not only from the government, maybe also from the business sector and also from the education or academician as well. Thank you, Dr. Rizky. I think we all answer all these 4 questions. Maybe there's other more question listed in the chat box committee. Do you have other question? Oh, yes. Okay, we have another 4 question listed here. The first one is for Professor Amran. Okay, Prof. I think now I will read one by one and ask Professor Amran to answer first. The first question is from Wiwi Andriani, Universitas Muhammadiyah Bengkulu. Yeah, Bengkulu is still in Sumatra Island. It's maybe it's like 10 hours driving from Padang. So the question is, what are the issues regarding changes in traditional concept and egalitarian concept based on Islamic transformation model from working women. Wow, the issue is, I think, a lot of issue in here. Yeah. Okay, Prof.
Yeah. Bismillah. Okay, Bu Wiwi, I assume. Thank you for a very interesting question. Okay, and let me attempt to answer this. Yeah, issues regarding changes in traditional concepts and egalitarian concept based on Islamic transformation model. Oh, working women, interesting. Yeah. Well, number one, okay, we have to acknowledge that change is inevitable. It has to happen, and it has been happening, okay, since the beginning of time. But okay, there's two things. Okay, two things. One is the traditional concept of change, and the other is the Islamic perspective of change. Okay, in Islam, certain things cannot change. Okay, and we have to realize this. Okay, the role of women particularly. Okay, even though there are flexibilities. Okay, and there are changes now occurring. Okay, but it is still okay referred to, of course, the Quran and Hadith. Okay, like okay, women can be leaders now. Okay, why not? Okay, and it has been accepted, and we've got women leaders in Indonesia. We had Bu Mega before as the president. But then again, in Salah, in prayer, okay, if there's a man, then the man has to be the imam. Okay, so these are things that has to be understood. As much as we believe in equality, okay, but then again, we have to realize that there is a demarcation, okay, between what can be done and what cannot be done. Okay, so to me, okay, and we know, okay, in Islam, women is highly respected, to the point that there's hadith that talks about who do you respect most. It's always the mother, only then the father. Okay, so meaning women is of high standing in our religion. Okay, then okay, if we can understand all this, to me there are no issues. Okay, the issue happens or is being raised when we do not understand our religion, okay, thoroughly, and we make assumptions. Okay, so this is where the danger comes in. And in Islam we have sessions. If you don't understand, you can always ask. We have muzakara, okay, discussion, debates, and so on. And this must be understood. And if you don't have sufficient knowledge, okay, it's uncalled for you to make claims. And this is very dangerous. Okay, so that's why from our perspective as Muslim, we always, at the end of the day, whatever we do, we refer to the Quran, then the Hadith, then the Ijma, okay, the scholars and so on. Only then, can we, make a decision. It's not, blindly making decisions and being influenced by other religion, okay, or propaganda or beliefs and so on. Yeah, I'm not going to indulge because I may see the wrong thing along the way. So I just want to say that, from our perspective as Muslim, okay, we have to know the demarcation, okay, what is allowed and what is not allowed for women, okay, and then we'll be safe, okay, inshallah. Okay, wallahu alam once again.
Okay, thank you, Prof. So basically, yeah, we know that Islam really encourage equality and respect women, but there is certain rules, what we can done and what not. So therefore it is important for us to understand that. So that what Professor Amran highlight in this issue. Maybe we can move to the second question from Tiadi Al-Farizi, Universitas Islam Negeri Imam Bonjol Padang, for Dr. Rangga Handika. The question is the issue that will greatly affect the economic and financial turbulence in new normal era, especially in developing countries like Indonesia. I don't really understand the question, but maybe the question is what aspect that will be affected by economic or financial turbulence in the new normal era. So the keyword I think is in the new normal era. So yes, Prof. Dr. Rangga, the time is yours.
Okay. So thank you very much. So my understanding from the question is, it seems that the audience asked, Mr. Triadi Alvarez asked, what are the main issue in the economic? So the answer is, this is quite comprehensive because the new normal is something that relatively new, completely new from the past. Yes, now we can enjoy some travel, we can enjoy, however, we still need to be careful, and a lot of changes in the business model and a lot of adjustment that bring actually two things. First, negative thing, and then second is positive thing. So rather than focus on the negative thing, which is always happen from time to time, like in the past, like when I was undergraduate student, I could not imagine that we can have very international conference like this, but now because the technology, it happens. And also there are a lot of homework. So basically the business model will be changed. And then in the term of economic and financial turbulence, so any institutions, either profit or non-profit, should be ready to be creative and then to find a new business model that works. For example, I'm the fans of soccer, really. So I watch like World Cup, etc. You know, during the pandemics, it was delayed, and Tokyo, we lost billion because of the Olympic delay, okay? But there is a solution. So the capacity of the stadium become half, and then we do hybrid, etc. So the business model in the new model, it works. So yes, some of you might say, okay, in the UK it's already normal, people not wearing masks or something, but regardless whether it's COVID or flu, there will be, the issue is now we become more concerned to the health issue, even like flu, we become careful, that's a positive, but now every business and this should anticipate. So might be the solution is, if we try to be agile, the hybrid will be the best. Of course, like for example, in the class university, if we change everything Zoom meeting, people will be tired. I can understand. But if all in person, might be there are time, regardless the COVID or not, when the weather is not good, people get flu or something, that might be better. So we need to combine what we find new creativity during this one. So at the end, it will be work. Yeah, I think that's it. The issue. Yeah. So the new business model change, and every financial institution, including us, we shall anticipate. So I think in the religion we believe baik sangka, correct, husnuzan. So there will be always a way. So even it's not easy, and there are still a lot of homework. Yeah, I think that's my answer. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Rangga. So, in my understanding, maybe in this new normal era, the best things it's combination between our traditional models and our new models, because maybe it takes time to be a completely new model, something like that. Just for example, in financial institution or in banking sectors, we know that during the digitalization and also pandemic era, there is significantly changing of behavior of people using internet and also using mobile phone to do some financial activities. Of course, bank has responded quickly by maybe providing some internet application or mobile banking application. But again, this is maybe it's only for some people, but the other population, they still need to do the traditional bank. They want to see the customer service. They don't believe with providing the data in the internet. So yeah, I think I agree with Dr. Langga. So basically combination between the old traditional model with the new models, maybe that's the solution for the new normal era in Indonesia. Thank you, Dr. Rangga. So we can move to the third question from Dio Yurianda, Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, from to Dr. Yul Henry. I think the question Dr. Yul Henry already explained in the presentation, but I think Dr. Yul Henry can highlight again the answer. Is there any effect of Ukraine war on Indonesian education?
Okay, thank you, Bu Aima. And thank you, Dio Yurianda. Directly, I think there is no influence of the Russia and Ukraine war, yeah. But the war had an effect on the price of energy, maybe, and food and commodity of need a household in Indonesia. And then more public budget will be used the subsidy energy and food, emergency for fuel change and will be used the subsidy energy and food that the public budget allocation for indirectly effect. And then for education will be reduced. The emergency of fuel will change and the learning curriculum and school, which a global preparedness, curriculum and conscription for military reserve, for defense, the future, and then budget military allocation more is bigger than all the allocation. Maybe is my answer, Bu Alma.
Thank you, Dr. Rio Henry. Yeah, allocation of the government budget is the key.
Yeah.
So maybe the government now allocate more on providing subsidies related to the healthcare and then food subsidies and so on, or energy subsidies, and that's may reduce the budget on education. What about the fact? What about the fact is that really reducing the budget on education, Dr. Rio Henry?
What? Sorry?
What about the fact? What about from the data, from the government data? Do you have any data that the government reduced the budget because of the Ukraine war, or still the same?
Maybe same, ya. In Indonesia, education budget education 20% wajib by constitutional Undang-Undang Dasar 45. Sorry, amendment.
So, okay. So until now, there is no significant impact then on Indonesian education because the government still have a minimum budget of 20%, yeah?
Okay,
minimum budget of 20% for education. Okay, thank you, Dr. Rio Henry. Now we can go to the fourth question from Novia Anggraini, Universitas Negeri Padang, for Dr. Muhammad Rizky Premasakti. How do SMEs in Bahrain manage COVID-19? Maybe how do SMEs in Bahrain can reduce the impact of COVID-19 to their business? Please, Dr. Rizky.
Thank you, Bu Aima, and thank you, Bu Novia. I will start with the interesting fact here in Bahrain and also in other MENA countries, Middle and North Africa. During the pandemic and after the pandemic, there was a study that revealed that the revenue of the small medium enterprises in MENA country increased almost 50% as compared to before the pandemic. So this is very interesting. That pandemic is like a blessing in disguise for the small medium enterprises. Now the question why? How is it possible? At least I could say there are three reasons of why it happens. Number one, again, thanks to technology. Because the digitalization platforms, it helped a lot the way of how SME is doing a business. In Bahrain, the government create a platform they call Bahrain.bh. Bahrain.bh, where all the SMEs, entrepreneurs, they can post the product, okay, and the goods and services on that platform, and the government support them to sell it inside Bahrain and outside Bahrain. And by the way, for your information, most of the sales revenue in Bahrain is generated through Saudi Arabia, especially in the eastern part of Saudi Arabia. Bahrain in eastern part of Saudi Arabia is very near. Just from my house, it's just 10 minutes, I can reach the border. So most of the sale come from outside Bahrain. So digitalization through the Bahrain.bh, it helped the SMEs to survive amidst the pandemic. This is the first reason. The second reason is how the SMEs in Bahrain managed the COVID-19 pandemic due to the what we call the support from the government. We call Tamkin Fund. A Tamkin Fund is like a pandemic fund. In G20, one of the point is they established the pandemic fund. In Bahrain, we call Tamkin. Tamkin is an organization that support the youth, the entrepreneur, okay, for social security purposes, and a massive support by Tamkin for entrepreneurs, especially young people, 20 to 30s of age, where they can expand the business, they can survive, and they can enlarge their business opportunities. So the Tamkin Fund also play a crucial role in cushion the effect of COVID-19 pandemic, typically in the light of the small medium enterprises. This is the second reason. Now, the third reason is the way of how they doing a business. So the business model now changed. Yeah, as before, they only focusing on the the local market. Now that SME, they expand to the international market. This is one of the lessons that here in Indonesia, our SMEs is the I could say is this the backbone of Indonesian economy. So try to look forward, grabs the Middle East market, for example, like in Bahrain, they see the Saudi market. By the way, now in GCC, the focus in Saudi, everything now in Saudi, business in Saudi, SMEs in Saudi, because one of the initiative by the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman to open the Saudi economy, not only through the oil and gas, but they open to tourism, that entrepreneur. It opened the door also for Bahrain entrepreneurs to do the businesses in Saudi, especially in the eastern part of Saudi. So expand to the new markets, change the business model. It helped the Bahrain SMEs to survive or even do better during the pandemic and post-pandemic. Hope it answered, Bu Aima.
Thank you, Dr. Rizky. So I think we can learn from Bahrain then to help Indonesian SMEs to grow during post-pandemic era. Three things that we can learn from Bahrain. The first thing is by creating a platform called Bahrain.bh. I think we don't have such kind of platform in Indonesia, yeah? So maybe by having that kind of platform, we can help many SME to open up their doors to the world, yeah, to the expand the market. And the second one is about the funding support. I think we do have some kind of funding support in Indonesia, and that help SME a lot to survive during the pandemics. So yes, we do have that. And the last thing is about expanding the market. So why can't Indonesian SME then expand the market to overseas, for example? I think we do have a lot of constraint. Maybe the first thing is related to the geographical location. It's I'm not sure about that. Maybe Dr. Rizky can highlight that. What are the constraints exactly for Indonesian SMEs to go to the international market?
I could say, Bu Aima, the level of the financial literacy and the financial inclusion in Indonesia, maybe we need more room for improvement. Here in Bahrain, people no longer carry cash. I'm not carry cash. They just do the payment through, the cashless payment through the benefit system. Even through the point to Apple Pay, we can make a transaction. So nowadays, there's SME 70% of the transactions are doing through the cashless payment system. Yes, you're right, Bu Aima. Like in Indonesia, we are very, very diverse and very huge country, and the inequality, yes, it is there. Where in the eastern part and the western part in Java, you should see how the gap is in terms of the infrastructures, the physical infrastructures, the financial inclusion. And by the way, just 2 weeks ago, we discussed this point in Bali in Polytechnic Negeri Padang, and one of the keynote from Maluku, I remember what he says that, yes, this is the thing that in Maluku, the readiness for the people to adopt the cashless payment system is at the low level. Don't say that. Even the internet penetration is our homework, the crucial challenge. Yeah, it cannot compare between Bahrain and Indonesia. It's not apple to apple. Bahrain is very small.
Exactly.
Even the Padang is bigger than Bahrain. Bahrain is just 1.5 million population. 1.5 million, a very small country. So it's not apple to apple, but yes, we are the giant country. And another thing I would like to say here, and something that I brought out to say, we in the Indonesian diaspora in Bahrain, we promote the Indonesian product through the combination between the Indonesian lecture and Indonesian embassy. Just recently, there is a coffee maker from the West Java the Arab people, they like the coffee. So we invite them to Bahrain and introduce, this is the coffee from Indonesia. And one of the action is the coffee shop, the barista, they will import our coffee from Gunung Sindur, if I'm not mistaken the name, from West
Sindur.
Java.
Yeah.
What is the name, Bu Ainwa?
Sindur, Gunung
Yes,
Sindur.
yes, Gunung Sindur. So thing is like that, we can open the door for our SMEs to grow, not only in our local, but also in the overseas market. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Rangga. So I think that's all for the 4 questions here. Do we still have question, committee? No more question? Okay. Oh, there's still another 4 question. I think a lot of work to do. We still have question for all the presenters here. The first question is for Dr. Rangga Handika from Maizi Safriendi, Universitas Negeri Padang. The question is, the market become more turbulent in the post-COVID-19 pandemic. How long would it last? Okay, I think this is a big question. Can the monetary and fiscal policy in the center countries such as US, Euro, and Japan would calming down the market or tend to trigger more uncertainty? Yeah, I think that's very good point and good issue related to the how long it will last. We haven't finished the pandemic yet. We still move, but Ukraine war coming. Okay, please, Dr. Rangga, highlight that issue.
Okay, thanks. So the first is a short answer is to be pragmatic and to be realistic. Nobody will know, as far as I know, how long it will be last because it's uncertainty. I also received the 4th vaccine in the Japan here. Even this is not compulsory, but I mean we cannot because this is really very tricky. You know, it's not like SARS or Ebola when people infected get severe symptoms, but it's easily to quarantine. But in this case, some people keep healthy, some people are not. So some expert medical, but again, medical is not my area. Perhaps you can verify. They might that might be forever, or perhaps we cannot release because now the case increasing not only in Indonesia. I heard like in Jabodetabek has already increased, but in Japan also increased. But what we can do is minimize the impact. So we can do the less restrictions, even not as it's free in the past with the careful. So the market, I believe, after some shock, they will stable. We can see empirically after the COVID, actually, we have already seen stable. However, the conflict in the Russian and Ukraine make the situation worse. So what we can do is minimize the turbulence, so we can make a better and better environment. If there is any other political tension, so I think this is the job of the G20. Even the Russian president refused to come, at least delegate. However, we expect that the peaceful will be reconciled soon here. And the second, monetary and fiscal policy in the century, they are already working hard here. However, the one is a bit tricky is US, whether we like or dislike, whether we are lover or haters, we need to refer US as the benchmark. So what happened now is US one, if we know the basic AD&AS analysis macro, the basic, yeah, if you are expert in the macro, perhaps you can give more details. The government tried to trigger US economy back. One way is improve the interest rate. So the problem is if another country doesn't follow, according to the international parity conditions, the currency will be much weaker. So this is quite dilemma. And you can see US people are also not happy actually with this because their purchasing power, we think, okay, US dollar is strong. It's different like in the global financial crisis 2008. In 2010, I was in Australia. I earned Australian dollar and I was happy personally because I traveled to US weaker, Australian dollar had some months stronger there, but in this case really lose-lose. I mean both parties are lose, even most of the US residents. Of course, I exclude some outlier, for example, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos. We cannot count lah, crazy rich or something, they still rich. However, for the most people, we can see monetary, they will follow. So if you say will coming down when the US later on, if we know the ADNS after there are some 1 month, perhaps it will be recovered in 2023 or 2024 because the interest rate cannot be increased permanently. So it will take a while. But a while is really painful. So you can see Japan normally zero inflation, quite high. German also experienced 8%, which is quite rare here. So that's the cost to restore the economy. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Rangga. So my note is we have to be ready in this new normal era. So we never know when it lasts. Maybe it's going to be forever. But what we have to change is ourselves, our perspective, like Prof. Amran say, our behavior and how we adapt to this kind of situation. And related to the monetary and fiscal policy, I think my note in here, this country are really important for our country as well. We have a lot of mutual cooperation with them. So what they do is really influence our economy as a whole itself. Right now, for example, we do have like 25% import and export from our GDP, but we're still lucky as in Indonesia. The main composition of our GDP is from consumption, which is the consumption is a domestic consumption. So yeah, we're lucky. Maybe we don't really have big influence on their policy. Yeah, but because of we still love our domestic product and our entrepreneurs and our SMEs background. Okay, maybe we can move to the next question. Okay, Dr. Rangga Handika. Okay, yes. Apology need to off. Yes, Dr. Rangga Handika, because it's praying time in Japan now. Yeah, please go ahead for that. We can move to the second question for Dr. Rio Henry from Candice Anwar, Universitas PGRI Sumatera Barat. So the question is the changes in the learning system from offline to online as a consequence of the existence of COVID-19. In fact, they are not ready to face this condition. In your opinion, what is the impact of implementing the learning system on the quality of students during the COVID-19 pandemic in Indonesia? So yeah, we all know about these issues. We changed the learning method and what are the impact on the student quality? That's the question. Please, Dr. Rio Henry.
Okay, thank you, Bu Aimatul. Probably some of the symptoms and fact and experience of teacher lecture in class so that there has been discuss in quality, in personality, moral and cognitive and skill and cognitive and ability, right, and moreover, the face-to-face interaction on the skin is not yet very familiarly between in the learning resident and educator and instructor and a lecturer. Most of the students are content connoisseur and defend on entertainment, entertainment content like TikTok, Reels, and short video and in YouTube, music, and that have shallow meaning, and as a result, a generation of bolster generation which strawberry mentality. But somehow we have to return to earth because this turbulence is above the sky, meaning we saw a return to real in the world. Maybe think, Bu Alma.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rio Henry, for your answer. Maybe we can move to the third question from Kartika Amalia Arundari, Universitas Negeri Jakarta. Yeah, we visit Jakarta, Prof. Amran now. The question is theoretically the behavior mapping with the bell shape is very interesting. Yeah, Professor Amran showed the bell shape. And then the question is how to operationalize this theoretical framework. Maybe it is better to give some example, Prof, so we can understand the concept of the Bell-shaped?
Okay, number one, I don't know why are all the difficult questions posed to me. I'm just joking. Okay, Bismillah. Okay,
Maybe
anyway,
because everyone is interest with your topic, Prof. This is a behavioral topic. It's relate to ourselves.
okay, Bismillah. Okay, anyway, well, the bell-shaped curve comes, okay, being a statistician, okay, it comes from this thing called the central limit theorem. It talks about when n approaches infinity, then the distribution will come out to be a bell-shaped curve. Okay, so it's just like a metaphor. It's how do we fit the bell-shaped curve, okay, based on the 4 classifications of behavior. Okay, Deadwood, okay, learner, solid citizen, and star player. Okay, but truthfully speaking, when I prepared the slides, it was basically based on a research paper and an article I'm writing right now, which is based on a qualitative research. Okay, meaning I'm using document review to identify themes and so on that can fit into the theme of the research. So, and when you do qualitative research, normally the framework comes towards the end, okay? We don't surface the framework early, okay? The framework comes towards the end. So the article I'm writing right now based on my presentation is basically, as mentioned before, it relates to the Maslow's theory, okay? It also relates to the, as mentioned just now also, the general systems theory from input, transformation, output, feedback, okay? And there's another model that I'm referring to, is called the People Potential Performance Model, developed by John Eddy in 2004. So by using all these theories, actually I developed a theoretical framework to interpret these behavioral changes, okay, based on the 4 categories. And I also finally based on the Islamic framework, okay. So the finalized framework, okay, is where I incorporate the systems theory within what we call the principles of Maqasid Sharia, okay, because as Muslims, okay, we are governed by Maqasid Sharia. So that is the finalized theoretical framework that I am developing, or rather have developed now. It's at the stage of finalizing before submission to a journal paper. So if anybody is interested to have a look, okay, just contact me, okay, through the organizer, and then yeah, we can have private sessions on this accordingly. Wallahu alam bisawab. Okay, thank you for the excellent question once again.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, the theoretical framework itself, it's based on the maqasid of Sharia, how the develop the bell shape itself, but it's still working. So anyone interested, maybe we can read a paper by Prof. Amran in the future. You may share the paper with us, Prof, later on when you finish doing all the theoretical framework related to the concept of the bell shape itself.
Inshallah.
Okay, we can move to the last question from Novan Korido, Universitas Negeri Padang, to Dr. Muhammad Rizky Prima Sakti. How do digital business owners in Bahrain change their operation to seize this chance? So, okay. I think what kind of adaptation, what kind of innovation they do to face the changing situation after COVID pandemic. Yes, please, Dr. Rangga.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Dr. Rizky. This is not for Dr. Rangga, because Dr. Rangga, I just read the chats in the chat box and then I noticed for Dr. Rangga, Dr. Rizky. I'm sorry about that. Yes,
No
please,
worries.
Dr. Rizky.
No worries, Bu Aima. Thank you. And thank you also for Pak Novan for the question. I explained this question in the previous Q&A session, but again, I would like to highlight here how the SMEs or digital, or what kind of that innovation the SMEs do to seize the impact of the COVID? Perhaps this is the questions. So the agility of the business owner or the SMEs toward the change, especially in facing the post-COVID pandemic impact, is the main thing. How they adopt, how they want to change toward the adoption of technology is crucial for them, whether they can survive or not to survive. Yeah. If we classify this the type of the business that impacted by the pandemic, we can divide into two. Number one, the business that severely impacted by the pandemic is like the tourism sector, right? Like what they call aviation, okay, where all of this business it needs what it calls the interaction, and because of the lockdown, then dramatically it decreased the performance of those sector. And the second type of the business that perhaps is less severely impacted by the pandemic, let's say it's like the food, beverages, right, or any e-commerce business, the healthcare sector. So all of these sectors are less or severely impacted by the pandemic. Now, how they do survive there? Number one, again, the digital platform is the key here. Some of the business that severely impact, they shift away from that business model and they open the business that might be less impacted by the pandemic. I can give example, but might not be in Bahrain, but in other country, Malaysia, maybe Prof. Amran know, like in AirAsia, when the pandemic hit hard in Malaysia, most of the AirAsia staff that opened the restaurant, right? They opened the they call the pilot cafe or pilot restaurant, something like that, or they're sending the foods like a Grab, like a Gojek that we have in Indonesia. So this kind of that agility, how they adapt and toward the change through the to cushion the impact of the pandemic. The first factor, agility toward adoption of the technology, is kind of that innovation that a business owner or SMEs should do in order to face any critical challenge. The second reason of the mode of the payment. Here in Bahrain, the adoption of technology is very high. I could say that 90% of Bahraini, they're using the cashless payment. And also the cross-border payment system is very advanced here. I can use my Bahraini card and I can withdraw money in Saudi, in Qatar, okay, without any charge or even very less charge. Okay, so the cross-border payment system, thanks to the benefit system in Bahrain, and it can also increase or boost the transaction of the small medium enterprises amidst the pandemic and also amidst the global turbulence. So two things, the digital platforms or the agility, where the business owner, the SMEs need to change, need to adopt in order to face any crisis or any critical challenge. And number two, develop that infrastructure with regard to the cross-border payment system, where it could be the free from the fee-based income and it fast, secure, so that it can help the SMEs to cushion the negative impact of the pandemic. Even as I mentioned previously, the business or the entrepreneur here in Bahrain or in Middle East and North Africa countries, they experience the increase in revenue during and after pandemic as compared to previous pandemic or prior to the pandemic. Thank you, Pak Iman.
Thank you, Pak Rizky. So digital innovation need to support by infrastructure, especially financial infrastructure that can boost the development. Okay, I think that's all our Q&A session. I think we finally come to the end of this panel session. Before I close this session, I would like to take some conclusion from the speakers. We know that COVID pandemic followed by the Ukraine and Russia war has significantly impact on many aspects in our lives, such as mentioned by Dr. Langga. The financial risk in financial market increased significantly after the pandemic and during the war. And then Dr. Yuhendri also highlight that this turbulence also has effect on education. But I think interestingly, Dr. Rizky also show us that this pandemic has positive effect on SME in GCC countries. And lastly, as mentioned by Professor Amran, we have to always adapt and also change our behavior, our perspective to be more beneficial to others. So I would like also to note in here that we can take advantages of digital technology, foster innovation to take a big potential market in the world. So I'd like to thank for all speakers for the insightful presentation and for all participants of very active participation. Finally, please give applause for all speakers and participants. Thank you so much and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih Pak Rangga, Pak Amran.
Ya, terima kasih semua.
Terima kasih Bu Aima, Pak
Ya,
Yulendri,
Bu Emma, terima kasih. Good
Amran,
job.
Prof. Amran.
Terima kasih. Ya.
Okay,
Terima
thank you
kasih,
for
sehat selalu.
Assistant Professor
Assalamualaikum
Aimatul
warahmatullahi
Yumna, PhD. And the next agenda, the closing speech by Vice Dean of Academic Affairs, Universitas Negeri Padang, Associate Professor Dr. Marwan. Time is yours.
Oke, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Praise and gratitude for the blessing given by Allah Subhanahu wa taala, so that the implementation of 10th Padang International Conference on Education, Economic, Business and Accounting can go well until the end of the plenary activity. Furthermore, salawat and salam to our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam with the word Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. The Honorable Rector and Vice Rector of UNP, Dean and Vice Dean of Economic Faculty UNP, the Honorable invited speakers, Associate Professor Dr. Rangga, Professor Amran bin Muhammad Rasli, Associate Professor Dr. Yul Henry, and Associate Professor Dr. Muhammad Rizki. Honorable lectures and all participants, all partners of Economic Faculty who attended both offline at Economic Faculty UNP and online. And the Honorable, the Chairman and all the 10 PICEEBA committee, presenters and all PICEEBA participants. Dear ladies and gentlemen, the implementation of 10 PICEEBA with the plenary session, which has been going on since this morning, has been done very well. The main ideas related to the theme of our conference, global political turbulence, challenges and opportunities for education, business and economy, have been explained very interestingly by our four invited speakers. Material on turbulence in the global financial market, behavioral transformation and behavioral transformation model from the Islamic perspective, turbulence, politics and education, and digital entrepreneurship and business amidst global geopolitical turbulence have been added to our understanding and inspired us to see opportunities and challenges in facing global political turbulence. Once again, we give our appreciation to all speakers and participants who have participated in the question and answer session. Ladies and gentlemen, the implementation of 10 PICEEBA will then enter a parallel session in the form of presentation by the authors of 67 articles and followed by question and answer from participants in each parallel room. Therefore, we invited ladies and gentlemen to attend and participate in discussion. So we will thank you to all participants in this session. Ladies and gentlemen, finally, we thank to the Rector and Vice Rector UNP, Dean and Deputy Dean, Vice Dean of Economic Faculty. Special thanks to invited speaker. Thank you, Prof. Rangga, Prof. Amran, Prof. Yul Henry, and Prof. Muhammad Rizki. And thanks to all PICEEBA participants and also Economic Faculty partners. Thanks and appreciation to all the 10th PICEEBA committee who have worked and collaborated in the preparing 10th PICEEBA so that it can be done very well. Thank you, Bu Eka, Bu Dr. Eka Fauziardani, Pak Dr. Doni Satria, and all the ladies and gentlemen of the committee of PICEEBA. Ladies and gentlemen, with the permission of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, on behalf of the Dean of Faculty Economic, UNP, I would like to close the 10th Padang International Conference on Education, Economic, Business and Accounting by saying Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Inshallah, see you at the 11th PICEEBA in April 2023. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
This is the end of opening ceremony. We are thankful to all guests and the participants for the attention of this ceremony. According to the agenda, parallelization will be start at 1:30 p.m. and for the information of the parallelization, we will share on the WhatsApp group of the presenter and author. See you in the next event of PICEEBA. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank
you, Haris.
Terima
Thank
kasih.
you very much
Kamran,
for
thank you very
our
much.
speaker, Pak Ibu.
Serangga,
Thank you very much.
Dr. Haris.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. See you again in the next
Thank you
PICEEBA.
for our lovely.
Inshallah,
Selamat
11.
Eka.
Iya, ketemu di
Selamat
Padang.
Mutia, selamat
Iya.
ceria.
Yeah.
Mudah-mudahan Pak Rizky bisa ke Padang